Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. At our last event, we started a conversation with Brian Davis at Orbee and Ed Roberts of Bozard Ford, Lincoln, about the service scheduler process and what happens when a customer cannot complete it. I want to introduce our panel today. I mentioned both Brian and Ed. Some panelists we have with us today are Jeff Revela from the Smale Automotive Group, Robert Miggs from CMA, Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and Daryl Terrell from Matt Bowers Chevrolet. So, gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Brian, if you don't mind, I'll come to you kind of to start things off. You recently did a white paper at Orbee on service schedule abandonment. What are some of the things you found after analyzing that at about 50 plus dealerships across the country?
Hey Ted, thanks. Yeah, it's actually about 72 dealerships now.
Wow.
We're just finding a lot of commonalities, that there are some things that we need to do with customer experience. Right. So, what does our service look like when we aren't in front of our customers, and how do we do a better job with that? So, what we really found, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who's listening in and watching, is that customers don't get the level of service that they tend to expect with an online service scheduler. And so we were able to uncover a lot of the differences and expectations versus experiences, and gave a couple of pointers in that white paper that we published about what you might do to start, improving based upon the baseline data that we provided.
You know, this has got to be the first time, Brian, that I've seen somebody study it on this scale. So I'm really excited about our panel today. Ed, let me come to you. You were on our last panel with Brian just 2 months ago. Ed, what happens when a service customer, either a prospective or an existing customer, can't successfully make an online appointment on the website?
Well, I'll tell you what the journey they're going on. They're telling us when they come there to make an appointment that they have a need. And then for whatever reason, if they abandon it, that something didn't work out and they don't make that appointment, they end up going to a competitor. And we're not in the world, in the dealership world, we're not here to figure out all the analytics of the website and all that kind of stuff. That's not what we do. So we need guys like Brian to come in and say, hey, these guys are abandoning the website at this point so that we can go in and make adjustments or do whatever we have to do. Because the last thing I want to do is send our prospective customer that came to my website to set an appointment in my digital service department. And then all of a sudden he has to abandon it because something didn't go right or something didn't happen or it didn't work out. And so I need that data so that I can capture our business.
Well, and Ed, this digital part of the process now is so critical and vital to everything that you're doing back at the retailer store.
Well, it's just like walking out in the service drive. Those are your customers that showed up in person, but we also have the digital service drive, and the digital service drive is the ones that's on our website in our digital showroom. And we got to make sure that we're taking care of those customers as well.
Daryl, what do you think? What happens when a customer, either new or existing customer, can't go all the way through on that service scheduler online at your dealership?
I believe it creates a frustration. A lot of customers, they like to have a simple process, something that they could relatively, make and book appointment quickly. So I think that Brian, your company Orbee, offers a great information and feedback and resources to help make adjustments and make a process where it's simple for our customers to keep our customers coming back.
I think you're right, Daryl. I think it's refreshing, right, that we're talking about this, right, rather than and looking for solutions. Robert, over at Carter Myers, customer comes on the website at your dealership or somewhere else in the CMA platform. What happens when they can't get through and make an appointment online?
The realization is if they can't make an appointment online, like Daryl and Ed said, we're just frustrating them. We're sending them around in circles. Those good customers are going to call us possibly. We hope. We don't know those things. So, I think Ed put a great point out there that we don't really study and analyze this on our side of the world very much. We're very much the live person in front of a situation, and we push for appointments to come and show up and make sure they're getting here. But at the end of the day, it's very few times we're going to see that the person defecting from that is really going to be willing to pick up the phone to call us if it's that cumbersome and too much of an issue to deal with booking an appointment.
And Jeff, I know that your organization has been working on this for a while, and I imagine, Jeff, this is not just on my laptop or desktop. This is on my on my mobile phone as well when I'm looking to make that appointment.
Yeah, when you look at the data, it's insane. We used to use CDK Drive. That may be converted at 6 to 10%. You have something like X time, you might get 25, 30%. So there's still this disconnect, because I don't think people end up on the service scheduler on accident. Nobody's going to a car dealer and accidentally getting there. And you're saying the best I can do is 20 to 30% with all this technology. And all this technology is then iframe. So it's not even like it exists on your website. It's another website in your website. So as the dealer, you're not privileged to what's actually happening. That data just isn't available there for you. So when they can't do it, they either abandon. We'll see phone calls and we'll see chats as well, but that's not what they wanted to do. They had to do something else now because we couldn't convert with a great scheduling process.
And Jeff, I know you've looked at it for some time. It's got to be frustrating, for you as well. Those numbers are shocking that you just shared with us.
Yeah, we've been doing that. I've been looking at that for a while, mainly because we were with CDK and it was atrocious. And we had a couple dealers that were required to use X time because of the OEM. And we're looking at a 5 times conversion rate. We're like, I get it. We get CDK because we have the DMS, we have eLead, so they bundle all this stuff together. But you could literally 6 extra appointments online just by switching to X time. But even by going to X time, you're still missing out on 75%. You still have 75% abandonment as a good case scenario. So we have a problem.
Brian, Orbee's identified that problem and you've been studying it. Kind of take us through that if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very, very Switzerland in this case. We work with everybody, and we kind of have to be. Every dealership, every OEM brings forth their own solution set to the table in many cases, as Jeff alluded to. And this isn't about who's worst or who's best. I think it all leaves something to be desired. There's no such thing as a perfect process. In the case with working closely with Jeff and his store's data, with relationship to his website itself, and then also the website within the website that he's talking about, really the core where we got the data that we were able to pull into that white paper as a very, very 30,000 foot summary was that people are falling out at certain points in the process and the dealer doesn't know about it. So that turned into, okay, what now, right? That's the common question when we look at a dashboard. What now? What can I do to make my store better, to affect my net, if I'm paid that way, and to make my advisors more money and get my techs happier and my customers, heaven forbid we serve the customer. We're starting to take this data and do some very interesting things with it. But before we get to that, what's really important to understand is with that lack of transparency, right, with the data, many vendors kind of point to, well, if you had the data, what would you do with it? We have to provide this data in a way where you can affect it positively. And the thing is, we're not getting the customer information out of the service schedulers. Even if the customer enters their name, email, phone number really early in the game, if they're part of that 75, 80% of people that don't make it all the way through, the vendor may have the customer's data, but that data was entered on our websites. So there's a boilerplate challenge of, hey, whose data is it? But beyond all of that, we have to get more information and bring it forward. So what we're talking about here is, how do we take this mismatch of who owns the data and what are we going to try to do with it, and how do we bring that together? And something that Jeff had really figured out early on, and what we had brought to the table, was we got to know who these people are when they're on our sites, so that we can use our intelligence and our people to take action based on what we find out about them. And that's where the term identity resolution kind of comes into play with all of this. But I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second.
Jeff, I got to ask you, going back to what Brian just said, how have you tried, or how has your dealer organization tried to use that website data, in ways, let's say, to improve the customer experience?
Yeah, before Orbee, the best I could do was how many people went to my scheduler page from Google Analytics and how many online appointments did I get, and I can get a ratio. With Orbee, one of the things we're able to do is, with because we're using X time across the board. There's 5 to 6 stages to go through X time. There's, you start, you put in your vehicle, then you select the time, you select the service. Do you need a shuttle? And then, you book the appointment. But with X time, until you book the appointment, you don't know who the customer is, but the customer may have entered that data on steps 1, 2, and 3. So now that we can segment and get X time to pass back these steps to Orbee, they're able to say, okay, somebody completed step 1, but not 2 through 5, or somebody completed up to step 4, but the most important one, not step 5. So all those step 1 through 4s, I can organize into audiences, right? Because now I know these people went to my page, but they didn't complete an online scheduler. So now that 70% of people that didn't schedule, I have a nice little remarketing bucket of audience that I can start to say, hey, I have, maybe it's, I can, and it gets even crazier. So there's people that I can now target because they didn't complete, but I also have data from my CRM, and I have people who maybe are lapsed service. They haven't serviced in a year, 18 months. I can start to overlay some of this data through email marketing and identifying who these sessions are. And it starts to get a little, I don't know if you're going to say a little weird, but once you start to identify, and the number one way to identify people is through website traffic, through email marketing. And then you start to put them into the service scheduler. I can start to see who's completing these steps. Now I'm putting these two audiences together, and I'm able to get a really fine-tuned marketing campaign built out of service abandonment.
Yeah, let me add a little something there. What we're talking about, and this gets very granular and very like into the rabbit hole pretty quickly. What Jeff's really talking about is how our system can identify your customers so that you know who fell off of the process, who abandoned during appointment time selection, or who abandoned when they were supposed to select what service they had. And you can then reach back out to these unique shoppers, okay, via email or via retargeting or what have you, to say, did you not know what your car needed? Are you confused about what the light on your dashboard means? Or did you not find a time that worked for you, Ed? Ed, you know all about that one. You're 5 weeks out, brother. Hopefully that's getting better for you. But you can really start to not just push people back to the same process they fell out of before, which is about how far we got prior. Now you can really say, I know what problem you have and I'm here to solve it. Sorry that wasn't as great as it could have been, but we're here for you. And you can do that before they have a chance to go make an appointment somewhere else, because the data is pretty close to real time. It's really exciting, the opportunity that gives you. Hopefully that makes sense, guys.
Ed, it sounds like this is a pretty big bucket of opportunity of customers.
Well, these guys talked about a lot of things that makes, I mean, look at, we try to drive more traffic in, we spend money on marketing campaigns, and then we come back and say, well, it didn't work. Well, we don't know whether it worked or not, because we don't know who abandoned it, who came on, who did whatever. This is a key element to what drives business into our stores. And it's a key element to what drives business to other stores around us. And it's key for us to know who abandoned us. And it's key to try to figure out the elements of why, so that we can fix that. Because I think Robert touched on earlier, it has to be simple. And a lot of times we want to put too much information out there on the scheduler and ask this question and ask that question and if this and if that and if the other. They get tired of going through all those elements. And this data shows that. We got to make it simple. If they can't set an appointment in 3 to 4 clicks, or get to where they can choose a time in 3 to 4 clicks, then we're forcing them out. And without having this data, you can assume that, yes, I have a scheduler. You can check the box. But this isn't something that we would normally look at. So we have to have great business partners like Brian to come in and say, okay, here's how much traffic you have. Here's your conversion ratio. Let's figure out why and where we're losing people. And then when you can do that, then you can truly measure the effectiveness of your service marketing pieces.
Daryl, I would have to agree with what Ed says. This is not something we would traditionally take a look at the dealership, but he's right. We're spending all this money, to market to customers, to, be able to do that online. And if a great number of customers are abandoning that service scheduler in the process, that's a disconnect, Daryl. You're on mute. Sorry.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, and I really like the what Orbee offers, because without tracking, you really don't know where you're losing your customers in the business. And I see for the month of July, 23% of our customers, they stop and they during appointments. I'm sorry, during July, 23% of our customers, they stopped during the appointment process. So taking that information, you could pretty much find out, whether a time frame issue where you have to staff up more. Maybe you go offer mobile services where the appointment time that you had available wasn't right for the customer. And you can really dissect and dig into exactly why your customer deflected for that appointment time frame.
And I don't know that, Robert, we've even been, asking our customers or thinking, about that as, how effective our service scheduler has been. And again, CMA, you've got a lot of dealerships with a lot of service scheduling opportunities.
And we just had a directors meeting for our service departments, and this was kind of a key topic situation in what we were discussing in regards to taking care of the customer and how easy the scheduler is to use. And the realization is, we can back out the customer side, we can back into the dealer level. How many more phone calls can this create for the advisors and our BDC that could be doing outbound calls or touching base with customers and following up? At the same point, if we make it such a difficult situation, difficult problem, it affects every aspect of our business back there, both sales and service, and it's kind of full circle on us.
And I'm thinking just the average RO, Brian, and then, multiplying out by all these customers.
Yeah.
You mentioned identity resolution.
Yes, sir.
Identify that, if you wouldn't mind, for us.
Well, I'll make it easy. It's knowing who your customers are as they are. If somebody walked in the door of your dealership, you wouldn't go without saying, "Hey, how are you? What's your name? I'm such and such." And on the website, we have a little bit more privacy and a little more anonymity for the customer. And we don't want to go in and push them away by being, exerting ourselves on them too much. But when you think about your service customers, people who are out on your website trying to transact with you at the end of the day, heck, if they could do it all on your website, they could, including getting their car serviced. So these people aren't afraid to tell you who they are and what they need. Okay. And then you think about what Jeff was saying with his CRM data of his customer base and those big DMS databases. That stuff is gold. But guys, the challenge is, and ladies out there, you're sending customers notifications. You're texting them, emailing them, doing all of these outbound engagements. But that engagement's not giving you anything back. And what you can get back, what Jeff and his team gets back from the Orbee team, is when someone engages with your email or with, even with your text messages and things like that, whatever device they're on has an identity. And when we bring them back to our scheduler, back to our website to do all of the things that they can do online, we should be picking up a little glimmer of information. We should be saying, "Oh, well, this is Ed. And he clicked on the email, it came back. Oh, he's on a new phone. Cool. I should be able to put that in with the other records I have for Ed. And now I know when Ed's on my site, not so that I can sneak around and understand what all Ed's interested in, but so that I can provide him with service that he's looking for, because we haven't quite made it easy enough yet. 10 years from now, it's going to be completely different. But right now, you have an opportunity to leverage a system that can pay you back on your own data. I like to think of it as, residual interest and compounding interest of the data you already have. To know who people are, just so that you can do a better job by them and keep them coming back to your business. That's what we think about identity resolution as a value proposition for dealerships. Is that
makes a lot of sense? Now,
okay.
Jeff, at your organization, are you able to leverage that now and utilize that?
Yeah, it's become my number one metric. I'm looking at ways to look at total visitors. And if, like Brian said, every visitor who comes to the site, whether we know who they are or not at that time, they leave a little trail and we identify that device that they're on. If somehow they put a lead in, and then now we have a name and an email, well, now all that behavior from that device that submitted the lead, now we can track that back to how they got there, what they did, what they looked at, the pages that they looked at. We've matched that identity to the customer. And when I do an email campaign on that instance, I know who the customer is already, but I don't know what their online behavior is. So when I send that email, all those little links in the email have little tags on them. And when that tag is triggered, whatever website or whatever behaviors they take on the website is now attached to that email, which is attached to that record. So now I can build it backwards too. So there's two ways which I'm doing to mapping the behaviors of the people on my website to the data in my CRM. And that's the key. That's the gold that we're mining. And that's what I've twisted my whole metrics to look at. How many total shoppers, how many of those shoppers, and Orbee by default out of the box is going to break down your traffic into sales, service, new and used, by make and model. Like by default, you're already organizing all this data into audiences and then mapping that to records in your CRM. That's where you step on the gas and it's go time then.
Wow. That's pretty sophisticated, Jeff, that you're doing that. Brian, I could just imagine multiplying the efforts, that Jeff's talking about at his dealership group, all across the country. This is a huge opportunity.
It's enormous. The early adopters are going to be the ones who feel the best about it. I think at the end of the day, certainly these types of technologies over time become a little bit more commoditized. Right now, we're at a point where so few people are focusing on who's there, what they're doing, how do I help. It's an immense opportunity. To take all of this is really seems a little complicated, and understand that. What we've been able to do, thanks to folks like Jeff and people who are willing to be, cutting edge with this and to spend a little bit more time to help develop it to make it right. We've made it as simple as to, if you have a BDC, bringing them a report that's rolling on a rolling 7-day basis that says, here are the people that we know were trying to make an appointment and did not get that. You need to call those people. Okay. There's another huge chunk that we're still working to identify, and it gets better over time. But some of the dealers that have been with us 2, 3, 4 years and have been exercising this identity resolution, they know a giant percentage of their database. And they've been able to go in and actually fix the problems to reduce the need for this type of service. So, you fix it, it gets better, and then you're going to have another problem to hit, right? But it's really imperative right now that dealerships understand they need to own their customers' data and take care of it. When all the cookie stuff happens, and privacy is a major, major concern for dealerships very, very soon in the near future, the dealership has the right to their customers' data, and really nobody else does. And you need to protect it and you need to leverage it. And if you're not starting this now, well, when's it going to be a big enough problem, right? That's kind of how we're looking at it. But huge thanks to Jeff, not only for his patience as a great customer, but his amazing focus on what it is that we do and how to make it relevant for the dealers out there.
Ed, I like the fact that they're acting on this intelligence and helping us to get in touch with those customers.
Well, it's following the customer's journey through their website. And it's like Brian said, when customer shows up and you don't say hello to them or something, what do? They leave because they don't feel welcome there. And it's the same thing. They come to our website, they stumble, and we don't say anything to them, but they have that need. And it's our opportunity to chase after them. And then we talked about the percentages of conversion of what people come there to make an appointment, what it converts to. And there's some schedulers that is 5 times better than others. And the reason why it's 5 times better is because it's more convenient. It's easier to use. It's more intuitive. It's no different than going to Amazon and adding something to the cart or click the buy now. It meets you at your level. If you're ready to buy now, bam, it's done. It's on its way. If you want to add it to the cart and keep moving around, you can. So it's finding a way to meet them at their level, but also go back and test your own websites. See how long it takes to schedule an appointment, because your time is just as important as our customers' time. And if it takes you too long to do it, imagine what you're forcing them through. And let's find ways to simplify it. Yeah. And then Brian can come in with the data to show you what that did for you. So look at it beforehand, look at it afterwards, and continue to work on it, get better, because converting at 25% is a 75% failure rate.
That's right.
We got to flip that around. We need it to be a 75% success rate, and at 25%, then we got a chance to remarket those, and we can kind of manage that size. But having a 75% abandonment rate, we are failing at chasing our customers down and meeting them at their level and bringing them back in.
And Brian, it would sound like that might be a first step, for a dealer or a fixed ops director like the ones we have here today to get on their own website and see what happens when they start to make an appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of things that we find that are very valuable. We obviously want to have that layer of data for you to help you with those things. But a couple of things that come to mind are absolutely get in your customer's shoes, right? And understand what it is they're going for, and do it from multiple devices. Okay. And you're not going to be really happy with the result at first, but that's okay. And then from an internal perspective, what I advise you to do is understand first and foremost, okay, what data do I have from everything that the customer could touch, right? Just try to start taking an inventory, probably a pretty small inventory, but that's okay. And the next piece of it, how many different systems are actually sending my customer communications? Got to get your head around that too, because we got to know what to pull back the reins on and pull in house and to centralize to get we got to know what's coming in, what's going out. So getting a perspective of those is kind of where people start to come to Orbee. And look, it's not just me. I've got a great team of technical people behind me and analysts and creatives who are going to be able to say, hey, you've got X, Y, and Z system, and you've got all of these things going out. Here's what we can do to narrow the focus for you and to turn you into a Jeff Ravilla with the laser focus. I just really think take inventory of what's touching your customers and what your customers are touching. And also, live in their shoes for a minute and see, get your friends to do it. Would they be happy with it? Or what? And then ask them the question. This is key. Ed and I share a mutual contact, April Palmer. And I asked April, what's the next thing you would do if you failed this process? And she said, I'd Google oil change near me. Right. So ask people, what would you do if this failed? And don't think about me as the dealer. Halloween just happened. We've got Thanksgiving right here and we've got holidays. Get with your friends, get with your family, and when you're seeing them with all these occasions and these holidays, ask them, right? What do you think about this? And what would you do if this was you? Right. And tell me the truth. Don't sugarcoat it now, and see what they say, just so you can understand the importance and really the opportunity. Don't get down about it. It's an opportunity to win.
Jeff, let's talk about that opportunity real quick. You've got all these customers now that you're able to identify and to go back to. Once a dealer or a fixed ops director or service director sees all that, what doors does that open now once you've got that valuable information?
Yeah, it really brings. I mentioned lap service. I think that's a huge opportunity for all of us. Everybody knows, hey, if I haven't got somebody in here in 12 to 18 months, that they need to come back in. How do we do that? So with the email campaigns, one of the things that you can do is you may send, say, 1,000 emails, and with Orbee, with a service campaign that's pretty targeted, you'll probably get 400 to 500 opens. You get like a 40%, 50% open rate. And of that, you might get another 150 people who click through, right? Then from there, you can look at who booked your appointments. You can export that list of people who opened. They took some sort of engagement where they didn't do anything last week. Now that they've taken an action, you have probably 150, 200 people to give to the BDC. They can go through that list and reach out to those customers who didn't take action again, right? But we know who they are. They had some sort of interest. We can use that data to reach back out, and maybe these are the top 150 people we should be calling first before we call anybody else.
Daryl, one of the things I like about the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I'm always telling Ed, Daryl, is that we get a chance to see and hear about this new technology maybe before other people do, Daryl. And right now you and Robert are getting the chance to, and Ed, to experience some of that early on.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think with Orbee, man, it definitely helps sum up the main objective is customer retention and just retaining customers and winning back your customers. So I think that, having this great technology to help us understand our customers and better provide service to our customers, I think it's a great win for everybody.
Our friend Tully Williams, Robert, says that we're in the repeat and referral business, and I can't think of any better way to start on that repeat and referral than right here.
Yeah, everything's been great today. And you know, the honest point is, what's that customer feel like when they abandon the website, they abandon what they're doing, and we reach out to them and touch base with them? Just imagine the thought process that goes through a customer's head when they go, wait a minute, I stopped booking this appointment because I got lost and controlled, and they reached out and they took care of me. And, you know, you can probably see some twofold situations here where it's actually being beneficial in the growth of the retention for the fact that they see you so attentive to them. So great concept.
Brian, so if I'm a dealer or, you know, one of these gentlemen watching today, and I want to take action and, you know, reach out to you and see if I can get involved in this study, are you taking dealers on? You know, how can somebody get on playing field with this?
Yes, that's a strong yes. We are taking dealers on. But yeah, reach out to me. I've got a team that's here to help as well. And we will make sure that, you know, you understand what it is we're going to do and the value we're going to provide. But start with me, brian.davis@orbee.com. Happy to share results from other customers. And we've got plenty of references, and we'll treat you right and help you get down this path. It's really, really important.
Jeff, I'll give you the last word today because you're already using this. So,
Oh boy.
you know,
Brian's nervous now.
Not a bit.
Oh, that was just an open-ended question. Last word. Like I said, it's a shift in your mindset. Orbee is great in the way that it's customizable. So my process is probably different than Ed's, for Robert's and Daryl's. It'll find the way that you want to use it, and you can adapt to it. And the change that I made was, what are the number of people that I'm identifying in a month? Who is doing what? That's kind of where I've been at. And so not demographics, not page views. I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at identity resolution. And that's my North Star going forward.
All right. We'll leave it there, everybody. Thank you so much. Brian Davis at Orbee, great technology, a great new subject here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable now. I want to thank the panel, Ed Roberts. I want to thank Jeff, Daryl, and Robert. And Brian, I want to wish you and everybody here, your families, a very happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Everybody, Brian Davis from Orbee with the panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.